What's up, guys? So this video is going to cover 3 sessions that I played last week. Tons of interesting spots, lots of, we'll call them bold plays by me. You're definitely going to want to stick around till the end. Let's dive right in. We get involved in the action on a Thursday afternoon, buying for $1,000. Let's see what we can get that up to. And we start off with a pre-flop monster, ace king in the small blind. There's 3 limps, so I raise it up to 35, and 2 of those limpers call. We see a flop that isn't really us, but it's pretty dry out there. I decide to check, and the other players do too. The turn brings in the flush. I feel like they probably wouldn't check back diamonds, so I'm gonna rep it now. I bet $60, and 1 player makes the call. Down to heads up, need some help on the river, and it doesn't come. It's an offsuit queen. I probably have the loser, so I'm gonna bluff it. I go 175, and well, he jams for another 75. Not gonna win my first hand today. But that's okay, because we're back in the small blind with 9-8 suited. The cutoff raises to 25, and I rolled high, which just means I thought of a big number in my head. So I raised to $100, and he makes the call. We get an Illuminati-esque flop in 4-4-4. I guess we're going to blast now. I bet $60, and he makes the call. Turn is a 10, gives us a flush draw that I think is pretty much irrelevant. Really hope he doesn't have pocket 10s in this situation. I'm going to keep blasting. 225 would be great if he folded now, but nope, he makes the call. River's a total blank, and hey, I wanted him to fold the turn, but it could work out even better, right? If he folds the river, we get that extra 225. It's like an ideal situation when you're bluffing with 9 high. Please fold when I do this. I go all in and snap call. Pocket 10s. Great. Very nice hand over there. And yeah, maybe let's chill out on all the bluffing. Lots of folks have been straddling, so I straddled too, and we get a raise from the low jack to 35. I've got jack 7 suited. I make the call, and the flop is queen jack 8 all spades. So we flop a pair, but I'm not a fan of this flop. I check, he bets 25, and for this size, let's keep going. I make the call. Turns another queen. I check, he bets small again, 35. Again, for such a small size, I just don't think we can fold yet. I call, and the river is another queen. So we've managed to backdoor a full house here. I check. I don't want to see a bet though, because I think he'd only be value betting better. And well, what do you do against this size? $650, guys. Massive overbet, and I gotta think about this. I don't think he would do this with aces or kings. It's just too thin. So it's basically quads, and what I realized after a few seconds is a straight flush is also possible. He could have flopped it with 10-9 suited. So those are his value hands, quads or straight flush. Pretty huge. And I think the bluffs that make the most sense is something like ace 10 with the ace of spades, ace king, same thing. And when I was thinking at the time, I don't think this guy would have stuff like king 10 offsuit, and even less likely king 9 offsuit. So there's actually not that many bluff combos. And for such a huge size, if we're talking like theory of the game, you really don't need to call that much. And I kind of feel like the only thing that makes sense to call is if I actually had quads or a straight flush, right? I'm very skeptical, but let's believe him this time. I make the fold. Really bad start, but maybe we can get bailed out by the bomb pot. I've got 10, 7, 6, 5. And we flop trips on one board, very little on the other. Action checked all the way to the turn where a 9 came up top and a 3 joined the bottom board, which gives us a pretty big straight draw down there. Action checks to the hijack who bets 75. 2 players call, and I'm gonna call 2 with all my equity. Still 4 ways to the rivers, and we fill up on top. Totally miss the bottom. I think there's a pretty good chance we're good up top, but I'm gonna check. Then the hijack who bet the turn pots it 420. 1 player folds, the button calls, and yeah, this is tough. I once again find myself trying to call for a chop, but it makes a decent amount of sense here because there's 3 players, so the hope is that we're chopping up the button. I think there's a good chance they both have king queen, and my full house is good up top. And the reason is I doubt that jack 5, pocket 9s, pocket jacks would have checked the flop, especially in late position like these guys are. So I'm just counting on my 6-5 being good. I make the call, and the hijack has pocket 9, so he beats me, and he has king queen, so he has the nuts on the bottom. The button also has king queen, so he gets a quarter of the pot. Other guy gets 3/4. I get, you guessed it, nothing. And I'll refer myself to the sign I made on my bathroom mirror last week. Maybe one day I'll actually listen to its message. Okay, things are not going well, but we pick up one of my favorite suited connectors in the hijack. I raise it up over a straddle. Now the button 3-bets, and it's to a pretty big size. He goes 4x, and when it gets back around to me, you know, against this sizing, I should really 4-bet or fold. But I guess I'm just not playing very well today because I make the call, and we flop a flush draw. I check. He's going to bet this board a lot, but he checks back, which I'm happy to see. Turns an offsuit 10, and I don't think this is the time to start bluffing. I check, and if he bets big, I'll just fold. But he checks back, so we get to see all 5 community cards for free, and it's the Jack of Diamonds. Really good card, because not only do I get there, but any king that he has is going to make a straight now and feel pretty good about itself. I check, looking to check raise. He bets 175, and well, time to spring the trap on him. I go 650, looking to get called by pocket kings, king queen, stuff like that, but he doesn't think for too long before making the fold. It was nice to finally win one, and we get ace king suited in the straddle. There's a raise to 25 and 3 callers, so definitely gonna put in a squeeze. I go 165, and 3 of the 4 players who are in for 25 make the call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop with a lot of money in the middle already. Jack 10, is it a queen? No, it's a 9. Really wish that 9 was a queen, but yeah, we have ace high, gutter, backdoor flush draw. I think on this board though, against so many callers, I just don't want to start blasting. I haven't shown much restraint today, but sometimes you have to. I check, low jack checks, then the cutoff bet's 350, and to this size, we all fold. He flashes a jack, nice hand. How about pocket 4s in the hijack? I raised the 30 over a straddle, the button and small blind call, so we're 3 ways to a flop of Jack, 10, and 4. Let's go! Finally! Alright, a set. Now we just need some action. I continue betting for 60. Button gets out of the way. Small blind raises to 160. He doesn't have a ton left over, a little bit over $400 more. Let's put it in. He calls, and now he asks to go 3 times. I don't think I've ever gone 3 times outside of a home game. The floor comes over and says it's okay. So that's what we're gonna do, guys. 3 turns and rivers. Here we go.
The other guy said no, and you said yeah.
The last board was already run out before when you asked.
Probably got counterfeited right there. So you got to squeeze something.
You got a set of 4.
Oh my God. Set.
Look at that. Jack 4.
4 with the wow.
Robbie.
He's still 3.
So it turned out he had Jack 4 off, trying to do his best Robbie impression, and we managed to get our hold on for all 3 boards. Still down a lot on the day, but maybe this momentum will carry us forward to the dream of breaking even. Now we've got ace queen offsuit in the big blind. There's a limp and a raise to 35. I just call. I know this is usually a 3-bet, but I like to flat call with these offsuit kind of big aces, like ace queen off, ace jack off, sometimes even ace king. I think it's a good strategy because when you 3-bet these hands, a lot of the times people will fold stuff that's worse than yours and call or raise things that are better, right? Like ace king or aces, of course. The straddle and the limper call as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop where we flop top pair, but it's a very wet board. Action checks to the pre-flop raiser, and he checks it back. Turn is another 9, not my favorite card. Not sure whether to check or bet here. I decide to check. Straddle checks. Now under the gun's gonna start betting. He makes it 100. The original raiser calls, and I call also. Still 3 ways going into a river. Total blank. Offsuit 4. I consider leading now because I think stuff like queen 10 or queen jack might check back, but I can get value from it if I bet. But I decide to check, keep the bluffs in, and under the gun bets 275 this time. I'm for sure calling this if the hijack gets out of the way, but he does tank for a while. It's gonna be murky if he calls. I think I'll probably still call, but it doesn't matter. He folds, I call, and he says you're good. So playing it passive, kind of disguised, ace queen, this time works. Now we're back in the straddle with Jack 9, folds all the way around to the big blind. He limps in. I decide to take the betting lead. I raise to $35 and he makes the call. We flop nothing, but we should be able to pick it up a lot of the time still. He checks, I bet 30 and he makes the call. Turn is the 9 of spades. Very interesting. There's so many draws out there and we do now have second pair. When he checks, I think I want to bet both as value and protection for my hand. I make it $80 and now he raises to $270. Okay, now I kind of wish I checked back, but let's think about the situation. Having the jack of hearts in my hand is kind of a big deal, and it's not a good thing. I block a lot of his bluffs, but there are so many draws out there, and the amount of 2 pair combinations are pretty low. I think it's possible he could be even as strong as like pocket 4s sometimes. Limp calling pre would make sense there, but overall, I think he has so many bluffs, just various combo draws, maybe pair and a flush draw type stuff. I don't think he'd raise a queen, just a naked queen for value like this. I said in the last video that this year I'm just trying to go with my gut every single time that I can, and my gut is telling me to jam. And the reason I want to jam instead of calling is because there are so many bad rivers out there that I want to protect my hand, settle this right here. I go all in and snap call. Well, we might be drawing dead. We agree to go twice. First board, no help to us. Second board, also no help to us. He wins with 9-6. So I was drawing to 3 outs. Not ideal, I know. Absolute punt. Sometimes the gut lets you down. Then we get ace king for the 3rd time today. Maybe we can finally win with it. I raise a 30. The button 3-bets me to 100. He's been 3-betting me quite a lot, which means in theory this is the perfect time for a 4-bet, but because of what I said earlier, right? Playing deep stacked, I think it's really good to play these kinds of hands passively sometimes, especially when you're not suited. Basically, when I hit the board with my ace king, even if he didn't hit, he's gonna have a huge range advantage and could just bluff with air. That's what I'm going for. I make the call and it's going according to plan because we flop top pair. I check, he bets 145, pretty big. I make the call. Turns the jack of spades, very much not my favorite card. I check in flow and he checks it back, which means we definitely have the best hand. Rivers and offsuit 7, very unlikely to change anything. Now we have the decision to check or bet. Now the thing is, I don't have a ton of bluffs. It's basically like 5-6 suited, along with like just complete floats, but I don't think I'd have that many when he bets so big on the flop. So my hope is he either blasts or he tries to get me off of a chop. Like if he has like ace 10, ace 9, I think he could bet huge, trying to get me off a similar hand, repping like ace queen, ace king, right? So I check. If he bets small, I'm actually gonna jam. If he bets big, I'll just call, but it doesn't matter. He frustratingly checks it back, goes to muck his card, so it seems like he doesn't have anything, and yeah, we're definitely good. Nice to at least end on a high note. Still, I lost over $1,000 on this day. Mostly my fault. I mean, there were 2 absolute punts in there that did not have to happen. Let's dial it back a bit and come back on Saturday, play a little better. Buying in for a little over $1,000 on a Saturday night. Let's get everything back from the last session and more. And this one starts with the same hand the last one started with and finished with, ace king offsuit. We're on the button this time and there's some interesting action. The middle position player just jams. $160. There was $7 in the pot previously, and now the low jack makes the call. The 2 players between us fold, and the low jack is a pretty tight player. I think against most guys, I would just ram it right here, but there is 0 chance that he's calling with ace queen or worse, and a relatively high probability that he has aces or kings. The only thing a jam would accomplish is getting to fold out some flips like 10s, 9s. I don't think he'd fold jacks, but maybe jacks. So I decide to just call and we flop absolutely nothing. Still have our 2 overs, but if he bets big, I'm gonna fold. Instead he checks, and with the dry side pot, no point in bluffing, I check it back. Turn gives us a lot of help. It's the king, but it brings in that front door flush. Like I said, I don't think he's gonna have a lot of suited cards like ace queen of diamonds, maybe. I don't think he'd even have ace jack, but it's possible. He checks, and with a dry side pot against what I consider a tight player, I'm gonna bet small, 125. He calls, definitely want to avoid a diamond, and we don't. It's the deuce of diamonds. He checks, I check back, just hoping somehow we're still good against both of these players. Nope, low jack's got pocket 10s with the 10 of diamonds. I think I probably could have gotten him to fold pre by rejamming, but I'm pretty okay with how I played this hand. Just a really bad run out. Then it folds all the way around to us in the big blind. We've got king 6 offsuit. There's a straddle on. I kind of hate playing these spots where you're blind versus blind out of position. I raise it up to 35 and he makes the call. Flop is the opposite of us, 8-7 deuce with a flush draw. I'm gonna check this over to him and he checks it back. Turns a 7. I'm gonna continue checking, and now he fires for $60. I think it's unlikely that the 7 hit him. I feel like he would bet that on the flop, both as value and protection, and I don't think he'd bet ace high either. I think he'd be pretty happy to just keep checking that down, so I feel like king high should be good a lot of the time. I make the call. River is another 8, also brings in the backdoor flush draw, which definitely could hit him. I check, he bets 250, facing another overbet, and I don't think he'd do this with the flush. Just feels like an overplay to go this big with that. It's not unreasonable at all for me to have an 8 or a 7 in this spot. Again, I don't think he has ace high. I think he would have just kept checking it down. So we're looking at a potential hero call. And like I've said, I'm going with my gut every single time this year. Didn't work out in that jack 9 hand, but that doesn't mean it won't here. I make the call and pocket deuces for a full house. Very, very nice hand. I just can't escape the punt monster that's within me sometimes. Just gonna keep living and learning, I guess. How about a bomb pot to get us back on track? We've got a pretty nice starting hand and we're on the button. Ace, king, queen, 7. Not a great flop up top, just middle pair, but we do flop top 2 on the other board. Checks to the low jack who bets 30, a player calls, and for this size, I'm definitely not going anywhere. I make the call. So does middle position, so we're 4 ways going into a couple of turns. It's another 7 up top, so now we're playing both boards. We've got trips over there and an ace down below, so we have a better top 2. Also, there's a spade draw on both boards now. Again, action checks to the low jack. He continues betting small, $100. Cutoff calls again, and well, we're playing both boards. These guys are relatively short. There's a ton of draws out there. We have showdown value right here, right now, on both boards. I pot it. Middle position gets out of the way, and both the low jack and the cutoff make the call for less than pot. So we've got a 3-way all in going into some rivers. They come pretty clean on both boards. The main draws missed. Hoping to at least get one of these, and guess what? I don't. The cutoff, who has a little bit more than the low jack, tables pocket 10, so we were dead going into the river there. We do get a little bit back because we beat him on the bottom board, but the low jack is going to take that board for the main pot. He's got pocket kings. So it's another bomb pot loss. This one though, I don't think is a punt at all. Just really unlucky. They kind of lulled me to sleep with those small sizings and got paid for it. Terrible, terrible start. And the very next hand, kind of tilted. I end up playing 10-8 offsuit, flop trips, get some money from it, before picking up jack 8 suited in the small blind. Straddle is on. Action folds all the way around to me. I make it 35. Big blind calls, straddle folds, and we flop a flush draw. And well, looks like it's time for me to blast once again. I bet 30. He makes the call. Turn's really inconsequential. Gonna keep going. I make it $80 this time, and again, he makes the call. Gonna bet whether we get there or not, but thankfully we get there. We hit the 7 of spades. Now I get to do something I haven't done much this video, value bet. I bet 235. This is the same guy I called down with king highs, so it'd be nice if he calls me light here, giving my chips back, but he makes another good decision. He folds. Looks like I'm taking yet another L. A lot of punt corners going on so far. Although I will say I didn't lose that much, less than I did the previous session. Still, we've got a lot of work to do if we're going to be profitable for the week. Let's jump ahead to Sunday, buy in for a little over $1,000 again. Can I finally do something with it? Pick up a very nice looking 10-9 of hearts. In the cutoff, there's a straddle, 2 limps, I raise to 50, and only the second limper call. So liking the situation so far, and we flop middle pair. He checks. I think this is a great one to check back. I do so, and the turn is an 8. Brings in a flush draw. He bets 50. Gonna call. Final card is a 7, so diamonds missed. Couple of straight draws got there, and potentially 2 pair. He bets 150. I don't like the situation as much as I did on the turn. I'm never really sure what people's limping ranges look like, so I don't know how many bluffs he has, but I decide to make the call, and once again, I am wrong. He's got 8-7 off, so I played it the worst way I possibly could in hindsight. I managed to lose the max once again. And we've got queen 4 of hearts in the hijack. I make a speculative raise to 20, folds to the big blind. He makes the call. Flop's not us, but maybe we can pick it up right here. $30. Nope. He makes the call. Turn is another 8. I think I can put a lot of pressure on his draws and just random floats that he had on the flop. I keep betting $70, and again, he makes the call. Gonna need some help on the river, and we kind of get it. King of diamonds. Doesn't help my hand, but it could help me make him fold. At the risk of punting again, I bet 140 this time. He thinks for a little bit, but ends up making the fold. Maybe I can actually get my bluffs through today. Then we get ace jack suited. I raise it up to 30 over the straddle. Then the hijack re-raises $100. And here's where the hand gets kind of weird. The straddle cold calls. It was going to be a decision to 4-bet or not, but I don't think I'm going to do it with the cold caller in there. Never totally sure what to do in these situations, and I should probably give more thought to it because it happens kind of a lot, especially in Texas. I decide to call, and we flop something, but not very much. 9-3 deuce, 1 diamond, 2 hearts. So 2 overs, backdoor flush draw. The hijack is gonna c-bet for $100. Cold caller gets out of the way, and I think we still have enough to float. Don't think a raise is in order. I make the call, and the turn brings the opposite of help. It's an offsuit queen. I check, he keeps betting. Just gonna get out of the way. Then we get more diamonds, king 9 this time. I raise the 30 over the straddle, the button, and the big blind call. So 3 ways, and it's 7-5-4, 2 diamonds. I think this is a board I'd usually check, but with the flush draw, I'm gonna try to push my equity. I bet 35 and only the button calls. So we're heads up together, and we see the ace of hearts come out on the felt. Ace is gonna hit me a lot, still have that flush draw to fall back on. I bet $100, and he folds. Hey, look at this. I'm getting bluffs through. Then it's pocket 4s in the cutoff. The hijack raises to 25. I call, small blind calls. Can we hit a set of 4s like we did last night? No, we cannot. Ace 7-6. Hijack c-bets to 40, and I'm gonna go for it. I think he's got a lot of one and done bets in him, and what I do looks really strong. I raise to 120, gets back around to him. If he calls, we can either give up or continue blasting, just depends on what the run out is. But it doesn't come to that. He folds. What he says is pocket 9s. I'm having a lot of trouble hitting anything, but I guess you could always bluff. That's all about to change though right now. Shout out to all the black kings out there. I'm looking at a couple of them right now. I raise the 30 over a straddle, folds all the way around to him. Oh my god, please don't give me a walk with this. And he doesn't. He makes the call, and take a look at that flop. We flop top set. Still, it's far from an ideal situation. There's 3 diamonds out there. I c-bet 25. He raises to 100. Very possible he flopped a flush, but also very possible that he's bluffing. I think raising would be dumb. Folding would be ridiculous. I call, and guys, I could have looked through this deck for hours and not picked out a better card. 8 of spades. Please don't slow down now, and he does not. 250. I've made a lot of hero calls this video, but that is not the situation that we are in right now. This is what I would call a dream spot. I call, and I hope whatever card he wants to come on the river is what comes. And that card appears to be the 6 of clubs. Please, please, please jam. Please. And we hear the beautiful all-in snap call. He rivered a straight, and finally, after 3 days of play, I actually win a big hand. Kind of a punt from him over there, but I'm not about to start throwing stones in the glass house that I live in. I'll tell you what's way better than bluffing is just having it and having somebody else bluff into you. That was the life that the people I was up against with the 8-9 suited and the Jack-9 offsuit hand were living in, and now I get to enjoy it as well. We're now up significantly on the session and not done yet. I pick up 8-6 suited in the big blind. European player in the hijack raises it up. I call, and we flop a double gutter with a backdoor flush draw. Definitely one I'm gonna check raise, but he checks it back. Like the last hand, I can't pick a better turn card in the deck. It's the 7 of spades. Nuts for us as well as a redraw. I bet 25 and he calls. Last card's a board pairing 7. Don't have the nuts anymore, but I don't think it really matters. I bet $100, and after thinking for a bit, he makes the call. Man, value betting is so much more fun than bluffing, guys. Very pretty looking hand in the straddle. Jack 10 of spades. Small blind raises to 25. I'm gonna 3-bet 85. He makes the call, and well, it's a good flop for our range, I guess. Maybe one of those black kings will show up at some point too. I c-bet 55, and he raises to 225. Definitely wasn't expecting that on this board. Do I blast off again, or do I just show some restraint and let this one go? I'm gonna let this one go. I've punted enough so far. Then it's ace 3 of diamonds. Nice little suited ace. I raised a 25 over a limp. Now the big blind's gonna re-raise $80. And well, I said I was done punting, but sometimes I just can't help myself. Suited ace in this situation, could call, would rather 4-bet. We're really deep, so this could get interesting. I raised a 250, and after thinking for a while, he tells me I just don't know what I can beat and fold, so I show him the 3 to let him know he could probably beat that. So a great rebound session. We finally book a win on the video. Still a loser on the week, but it's nice to mitigate the losses a little bit. Let's wrap this up with some closing thoughts from your favorite punter. Well, what did we learn today? I'd say I learned that having it is literally always better than not having it. I'm going to do my best to do that more often next week. Overall for this week, I ended up this amount. So a small loser, not a big loser. Obviously not how, you want the week to go, but it's not that big of a deal. I still want to make 200K this year, so we'll bounce back next week, and maybe I'll punt a little bit less, give myself a better chance. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next KDog Poker vlog.